So I am very, very pregnant. Like, I am so pregnant that I am going to have this baby next week. And for those of you that are new here, you may not know that earlier this year and last year, I had two miscarriages back to back. I have one older child who is a preteen that is 12. I believe in, proactive parenting that is gentle and violence free, including physical, emotional, and verbal violence. I love being a mom, and my baby loves being my baby. So, obviously, with me being pregnant and also me being a content creator, my pregnancy journey, my reproductive justice journey has been very well documented because I have been also a victim of medical malpractice that led to one of my losses. And in general, as a black woman, I support the right to fully have reproductive choice, just because so much of black history has been trying to limit our reproductive choices. And so I knew that these people were a thing, but I had not personally encountered any until I made a post and I was talking about not desiring any sort of unwanted medical advice during my pregnancy, specifically because most people don't know what they're talking about. And enter an antinatalist. Now, if you have the pleasure to be unfamiliar with antinatalism, I am so sorry that I am about to introduce you to these fuckfaces. The antinatalist movement are basically a bunch of people who are anti the idea of giving birth and having children. They believe that people don't, quote, consent to be born, and that birthing them is cruel. And that, I have never seen a argument for antinatalism that did not just seem like eugenics and unprocessed trauma in a trench coat. Now, the reason that I say that this seems like eugenics and unprocessed trauma in a trench coat is because I've never seen an argument that did not fall under one or the other. Existence is pain. What is non-existence? It's nothing. Like, everybody experiences pain, bro. You learn to cope with it because that's part of life. If you can't cope with it, you have the right to not be part of life. If you resent being born that much, you have the right to unbirth yourself. And then there's the argument about how people who are essentially poor or disabled or da 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 should not have children. And I think that we should create a world where people who want children should be able to have them, but also have resources to support them. And that is a world that most of us are working towards. In the meantime, what is not helpful is this, I really feel like these people are just the other side of corn of first forced birthing, which is also, a eugenics movement. And it is not lost on me that most of the people who spread this crap are members of the global minority. And so you, as a member of the global minority, coming into my comments as a pregnant black woman to suggest that I should not be birthing beautiful, healthy, supported black children who love being children, who love being black, who are being raised in a way that is progressive and filled with love and honors their personhood and their autonomy, is violence. And so, I feel perfectly justified in responding violently because, first of all, bitch, who asked you? Secondly, why do you think that it's appropriate to go around the internet harassing pregnant women? Pregnant women and children are some of the most vulnerable people in our society, and you took time out of your day to attack both. And yet somehow you have convinced yourself in your world of white people with dreadlock delusion that you're fucking progressive. Is it crack? So let's talk about some of the wonderful comments that I got from antinatalists after talking about being harassed by someone when I was literally just existing while pregnant. So there's this guy, first of all, and he's a real gem. He says, I'm an antinatalist, but I do my best to keep my mouth shut around the breeders. Now, if you need to know why this comment is problematic because you, for whatever reason, don't understand how words work, calling pregnant people breeders is dehumanizing as fuck, actually. Because we're people and we are not simply people who breed. Or, like, are we dogs who are designated just for having babies? Like, what? Anyway, and then someone asks correctly, when? When do you shut up around the breeders? Because you're around them right now and you're very fucking loud, actually. And again, after the boundaries was laid of like, I'm a pregnant woman, I don't want to hear this weird shit move around. And then this person accused me of being inflammatory for saying that it is violent and unnecessary to say those things to a pregnant woman who is not bothering you. And then he almost immediately goes into the eugenics. Talking about how there's 8 billion people in the world and it's overpopulated and blah, blah, blah. But it's been proven so many times that the world actually has a lot of the resources, more resources than what is needed for the 8 billion people that's here. The problem isn't the amount of people, it's the amount of capitalism. And so, again, eugenics and unprocessed trauma in a trench coat. And then he goes into that includes a lot of women, a lot of children who are in need of a home. But question, should a person who hates children be the best person to fucking adopt or foster one? Because personally, adopting and fostering is within my plans for my family. And after I had my second miscarriage, I had actually shifted to fostering. And obviously it's not a good idea to take in another child while I'm expecting, but it is still very much so on my plan. Like, I grew up as a foster child. I grew up in group homes. My best friend right now, who also grew up with me in group homes, is starting her foster journey. These things are not actually fucking mutually exclusive, JR, and that's why I blocked your weird ass. And in doing absolutely nothing against the argument of unprocessed trauma and eugenesis. So there's Janet at the top here, and she decided to go way off the rails and just really personalize this. People are allowed to not want kids and say that they don't. It's not an attack on you. Get over yourself. Yes, people are allowed to say that they don't want kids. I don't give a fuck about that. People are allowed to not have kids, and they can do that over there. That's not what we were discussing. We were discussing me minding my business and being pregnant and someone having a fucking problem with that. And those are not the same conversations, Janet. And that's why I blocked your weird ass. And then we have Clarence here, and he is a real gem. He doesn't detest being born, but he does detest people like me who have main character syndrome and think they're the center of the universe. And breeders, which again is dehumanizing language, who continue to breed even though they know their child will get to 50 before we run out of clean air and water. But hey, at least you got that pregnancy shoot you wanted. That matters way more than the quality of life of another human. Again, the problems in our world are not from people having children. They're from capitalism. And guess what? Some of us fight that. Guess what? Environmental activists, they do that. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. And those of us who are committed to raising our children in a better world are already working towards those things, Clarence. So, you don't have to be a weirdo and a fuckface on pregnant woman's birth. It's clear that you detest being born. And it's also clear that everybody around you detests the fact that you were born too, because you are just such a motherfucking gem. Um, and then there's the passive aggressive responses where people are talking about how mutual respect is important. Parents who do well in their parenting should not feel any shame in doing so, but at the same time, parents must stop shaming and forcing their view on child-free people. I've been called sick, selfish, because I simply don't want to be a mother. Now, girl, I ain't said nothing to you about what you do with your pussy at all. Want to know why? Because I don't give a fuck. Because it's not my business. Because at the end of the day, nobody is responsible for taking care of what comes out of you but you. We are talking about me existing while pregnant and people having a problem with that. I do not have mutual respect for those people because they have already broken the pact of mutuality. And so, why did you go out of your way to try to make this about yourself and your, again, unprocessed trauma about existing as a child-free woman in a patriarchal world? I ain't do none of that shit to you. What the fuck does that have to do with me? So she got blocked too, because the only thing that I hate more than an aggressive bitch is a passive aggressive bitch. Because this is just a passive aggressive way to insinuate that because of your past experiences with people who are forced birthers, that I deserve to be attacked at the end of my high risk pregnancy with a child that I very much want and will love and adore and do my best to build the world that they deserve to live in, because somebody was really mean to you. And girl, you can fuck yourself right in your least favorite hole with that nonsense.